Steeler Fury. SteelerFury.com.
Hey, if you are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan and you're in need of either therapy or the airing of grievances, it's going to come a little early this year because this is your Pittsburgh Steelers show on the SteelerFury.com podcast. I think I'm still Will Mastersack, also known as Bradshaw to Ben, also known as Accidental Zen on Twitter. Talking football tonight with three excellent cohorts who I'm sure will share in the misery with me. First, from somewhere in the greater Indianapolis area. He went to the game, I think, last week, if I'm not mistaken, in Indianapolis with those Colts. His name is Jeremy Coleman. He's with us. How are you, sir?
Doing good, sir.
Sweet. And from somewhere in Pittsburgh, suburban zone 22, his name is Steel Perch. He's with us. How are you, sir?
His podcast lacked a little intensity lately. Can we get some music in here?
It lacks intensity? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, it's just been a little dry, a little boring. Can we get some maybe some blues or something to set the
What do you think Chase
tone
Claypool?
here?
What do you think Chase Claypool listens to, Perch? That's what I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's got to be some oldies, I would think, right?
Yeah, I have a pretty good idea. This is incidentally, it's Perch's favorite song. How's that, Perch?
Much better.
You asked, you got it. Come on, I just rickrolled you, man.
I'm just frightened that you had that queued up so quick.
As soon as you said play some music, I'm like, I'm going to rickroll you. It's frightening. Anyway, YouTube's a wonderful thing. Also, waiting through all that music introduction, the man who would like to practice better for the show. You know, we don't practice at all for the show, in case you couldn't tell. I'm sure you could tell. He's in somewhere in the deep south, suffering along with us. His name is Dom. It goes by FC. How are you, sir?
I'm here. So I don't get fined.
Yeah. Oh boy, who would like to start, or would you? I'm a little bit afraid that if I start, Perch has promised us some big scoop tonight, so I'm not going to start with him. We'll save the suspense for at least another couple of minutes. FC, let me ask you this: did you turn off that game at some point?
I did. I won't lie, I did. I went back to it, but I turned it off for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I wasn't emotional about it. It was. They were laying a stinker. They were outmanned, outplayed, outcoached, out-hustled, out everything you could think of. And I began to take issue with some of the calls, not only by the Steelers offensively, and I started to take a bigger issue with some of the stuff that the ref was calling versus some of the stuff he was letting go. And he said, you can openly say, we want to let you play a little bit after the probably 6 consecutive penalty that was thrown was on the Steelers. And I was just like, yeah, I need a break from this. But it was bad.
Jeremy, you went to a game during the Steelers game, so that means maybe you knew what the result was when you got back and you watched it anyway. Tell me how that broke down for you.
Yeah, so Tampa Bay Buccaneers were in town, and a buddy of mine had a ticket. So I said, yeah, I'm going to go watch Tom Brady play the Colts this week. Might be the only time I ever get to see him play live. So, that game was actually pretty competitive throughout. And then, a little after the first quarter, my buddy Mitch looks down and says, hey, you guys are getting beat like 28-3. And I was like, are you bleeping kidding me? So I at that point I was like, you know what? I'm really glad I made the good decision to go watch a good football game today. because when I rewatched it, I've got NFL Game Pass, so I rewatched the broadcast. I was like, yep, this would have been a bad way to spend 3.5 hours of my day this week, which I ended up doing anyway. But
I think you did real well not watching it live. It was painful.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. If I probably would have turned it off completely. I don't know if I would have been able to go back to it if I was watching that live. But just how poor just Pittsburgh played in general, just totally drummed on both sides of the line. Just, man, could not be more disappointed in that. Now my brother-in-law gets to reign it over me for, the rest of the year. He's a Cincinnati fan, of course. First time Cincinnati's beaten us 3 times in a row since like 1990. And I don't know if you guys know this, but that was before I was born. So,
God.
Yeah.
Perch, let me ask you a very tough question. What was the worst part of the Steelers game on Sunday?
I don't know. I'm just sitting here trying to do the math and figure out if you're Jeremy's grandfather or not.
Well, it could be. I play. I play football I play football with the guys in the park here in Brooklyn every Sunday, and we often have this conversation about, if someone could be my grandson. We figured out that in West Virginia, I could have been one of the guys. Could be my great grandson. So, yeah. Jeremy, definitely in a different age.
What year were you born, Jeremy?
I was born in 1990, so that was the last time Bengals beat us 3 times straight. So.
We're born before Perch and I graduated high school. That was,
Yeah, yep. So.
Yeah, not me. I'm the old man. I had to suffer through more Steelers years than you other guys did. But I also got a couple of good ones you guys didn't get too, so I don't feel too bad. Perch, what was the worst part of this game? You didn't answer my question because I know you had to think about it.
I mean, there were so many good parts. I hate to dwell in the negative. No, I mean, the effort. I mean, how many times have we just seen the Steelers come out with a chip over against the AFC North rivals, physical and violent, and they're playing, hey, maybe they had a bad game the week before and they just come out and, set a tone. They don't have a lot of tone setters. And it's kind of the same thing that Ryan Clark and all the other former players have said about this team. It's just, who's the guy? And I think maybe we're oversimplifying it to that there's just not a major tone setter. I think you still have a good defense and not play as cheapy they did for the last 20 years. But, when you look at the people who are actually on the field and you're a Steelers fan is dedicated as the 4 of us on this call are, and you're grabbing jumping on our lads and figuring out who the hell's Derek Tuska in the middle of a game. And, there's so many players that just weren't even on the team in camp that have come and cycled through. And we knew before the season, hey, we've got a good defense, but we have no depth. If there's injuries, this can go from a good defense to a bad defense. And it really has, from where they were early in the year when they beat Buffalo, and even when they kind of got some of their guys back against Cleveland, and what we've seen in the last few weeks. I mean, the defense can't get off the field. I mean, teams don't. If the other team punts against the Steelers, it's a big deal, right? I mean, our defense is completely washed. We knew our offense was going to be the weak side of the ball, but to me, there was absolutely no effort, no emotion, no anything with that team, just no life, and that's the most disappointing part.
Yeah, FC, I was going to say, to me, the most disappointing thing about the game relates to what Perch said, which was effort. And that is, it looked like they were playing with 10 guys on defense because I don't know if you isolated or you paid attention to what the game that Devin Bush had, but that might have been the most embarrassing lack of effort of anything I've ever seen from a Steelers linebacker going all the way back. What's your take on this situation? The guy touched a ball carrier like twice. I think actually 4 times in the game. He got a hand on somebody without actually making a tackle attempt and hit the ground twice over the course of 60 minutes of football. How do you do that? What is going on? Explain Devin Bush to me.
I'm going to have a hard time explaining Devin Bush and Schobert, Spillane, or any other inside linebacker without. I figured out some things watching the actually went back and I rewatched it. So I watched that fiasco twice. And the reason I did is I wanted to make sure that I wasn't as crazy as I originally thought I was, and I was not. I went through and I said to myself, holy fuck, are the Steelers little. Then I realized the Steelers don't have one player on the active 48 the last 3 weeks that's been 300 pounds or more. If anybody can name me one single defensive player 300 pounds or more, I'd be very intrigued to hear it. And stop thinking we didn't play one. We are tiny on defense. Taco Charlton and Chris Wormley are the same size. They play different positions. They're the same size man. Devin Bush and Schober have been horrible. But I think a big part of the reason why they've been horrible is they've had their wills broken because for the last month, 6 weeks, I think as the season's gone on, the Steelers' defense has been exposed to we were tiny and we were stopping the run with, bong smoke and mirrors. The first podcast we did this year, my fear was the Steelers were not going to be able to stop the run. And they cannot, and it's worse than I expected. I think the second part of the problem is Mike Tomlin's trying to fix this defense. And Mike Tomlin's trying to fix this defense with what he really knows at his core. And that's, the George Perlis, Spike Carson, cover two. I will never call it the Tampa 2 because the defense does not exist. It never has existed. And that Tampa 2, just to make it simple for people, and what we have just doesn't fit. So what you have is just a mismatch of concept with undersized players that have been mentally broke. Cameron Hayward goes out there and he's a warrior and he gives it his all. And I'll say the same thing for TJ Watt. And I'll say the same thing for Highsmith. But there's a lot of guys that are just being mentally broke by having to take on and are asked to do things they can't do. It's just the expectations of the defense is just completely unrealistic with the personnel that they have out there. And you got some fucking sour. Devin Bush doesn't have a prayer of having his option picked up in Pittsburgh. And I won't be shocked if he's moved for something very bad, like a 6th or 7th round pick in the offseason. Because if we've taken notice at the lack of effort and how he just quit, that is something that has really never been accepted in Pittsburgh. The reason that we struggle to think of it is because in my 40-plus years of watching Steeler football, that turd's never floated. It's David Little and Greg Lloyd and Brian Hinkle. Even when we were terrible on terrible teams, we had defenses that would attempt to kill you. And that is not Pittsburgh Steelers football. And as long as the Rooney's on this team, I don't think it'll ever be accepted.
I mean, here's the thing, Jeremy. Devin Bush is, undersized, and for the position that he plays. So his effort and his aggressiveness and anticipation is the thing that he's got to rely on to be successful. I mean, I'll make a statement. You can tell me true or false. My statement is, if they put Devin Bush starting this game out on the field, that team is going to quit. The rest of the team, because I mean, take a second. If you're a defender on this team, how do you play if Devin Bush starts this game after you saw the film session? Because it's not the first week he's done this, but this was clearly like the worst situation. Tell me how you deal with that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be starting him. If you want to play football, show up and play football, man. I mean, he's just out there collecting game checks right now. People can say, oh, yeah, he's still coming back from injury or whatever. But, I mean, he's just playing soft, simple as that. I understand we're not, keeping linemen off him this year. Our defensive line's allowing guys to climb to the second level and get out on screens and, just getting out in front of him and making his life tougher. But, I mean, this is the NFL. You show up to play every week. If you don't, you won't be there very long. And like FC said, he's looking for a ticket out of Pittsburgh almost if he keeps up this type of crap. Well, it's not accepted. I would rather us, change this team completely back to a ground and pound, tough nosed defense than go out there and just keep seeing what we keep seeing, lack of physicality. That's the one thing Pittsburgh has been from start to finish, since Chuck Noll got there, is we're going to play tough and we're going to punch you in the mouth. This team has no punch in them.
No, I mean, how much worse can it be to start Buddy Johnson?
Right.
At least the kid is going to give you 100%.
Right.
Perch. At the end of last season, the Steelers had trouble stopping the run, and probably they weren't, good enough, big enough, and their linebackers didn't play well enough to do that. In the offseason, they were going to let Alualu go, and they definitely let Vince Williams go or pretty much talked him out the door. They were lucky enough to get Alualu back, but he only lasted a game and a half. How could there possibly not have been a backup plan to have a 300-pound guy, to have some space eaters in case teams try to run on you? I just don't understand, especially with the status of Tuitt going into the year, and now we can get into this question. With the status of Tuitt going to the year and him not playing, they not only didn't deal with it in the offseason, they didn't deal with it, in camp. They didn't deal with it before the trade deadline. Like, who is driving the ship?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, but first thing I would touch on would be, the league is kind of cyclical, and it's really started to skew heavily towards the pass game. And the Steelers revamped their defense. They got rid of the big thumper linebackers for these smaller, quicker guys. You got rid of the big Casey Hampton nose tackle for more mobile, agile guys. And the nose tackle was rarely on the field, and the reason they were getting gashed against the last year was a lot of it was alignment. They're playing nickel, and teams are just saying, all right, we'll throw some tight ends out there and bully you and run up your gut. I mean, you can't defend everything. You got to kind of key on one or the other. But the league has really started to cycle back towards the rundown, where teams are getting so light and so fast on defense that they're like, you know what, a team can really make hay by throwing some big bodies out there and stressing the run. So you've kind of got to be multiple, a little bit better than what they have been. I don't think that drafting a 350-pound nose tackle is going to fix anything. But when you have Cam Hayward, who was a 4.3 defensive end in college that weighed 280 pounds, who was our nose tackle this week, completely playing out of position. It's a depth thing. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Bush, real quick. He's playing very similar to another Steelers linebacker, and you guys are probably scratching your head trying to think who it was. It wasn't all that long ago. But remember Sean Spence, after his injury? He was an undersized, 5'11", 230-pound linebacker who kind of made his way in college by having good speed and good read recognition, got hurt, came back to the NFL, and was just unbelievably bad. I give Spence way more credit than I give Bush, because Spence's problem was he no longer physically was an NFL caliber player. Bush is just avoiding tackle. He will go out of his way to avoid contact. And if somebody locks onto him, you see a tight ends extend their arms and block him, and he won't run through the man. And it's just embarrassing. His level of play is embarrassing right now. So I'll disagree with FCN one thing. I don't think that they will move him any chance in the offseason, because I think Tomlin's too close to him. It's his guy. It's his pick. He's buddies with his godfather or whatever. And I think that the Steelers kind of think that, this guy's coming off a major injury. Let's give him another year to come back and try and prove himself. So I think he'll be your day one starter next year.
But wait, Perch, here's the thing about that. This year, if he can't play right now, why is he on the field starting? Why is he's costing them games right now?
The only thing I could think was not much depth behind, but Spillane is a complete opposite, right? He's a guy with very little physical ability and talent, but he will run through a freaking wall and give you 110% of everything in his being every snap. And that's the guy you need out there, right? That's the guy who's going to set some tones when he hits people. It stings, and they think twice about running in his area. Teams are intentionally running to the left. I mean, they're targeting him and running at him. Now we've got to bring Fitzpatrick down in the box to kind of cover up for him, and he's an overpaid extra linebacker because he can't be the deep safety that is his strength. Yep. So you could see teams typically don't run left a lot. When they play the Steelers now, they're running where Bush is constantly, and they know they can go right up the gut to his side and just gash him.
I get back to this thing, Jeremy, where if you're the coach of a team and you see what that guy is putting on tape right now, it's one thing to say, hey, we believe in you, but you're just not cutting it right now. Why don't you watch from the sidelines and see if you can get reset. And then next year, we'll give you a chance to get back out there and do what you do well and finish rehabbing, blah, blah, blah. But that's fine for next year. I that's not what I would do, but I can understand that, for them. How do you, with a straight face, put the guy back out on the field, especially when the head coach is in the press conference talking about effort and that his team has to play with better effort? Do you put him out there and you see 2 or 3 plays and you're like, forget it, I'm going to pull in him? Can they even bridge that at this point with Devin Bush, or is it just too tied into, it's an embarrassment for the franchise if he doesn't work out?
Yeah, I think it'll be an embarrassment if he doesn't work out. And what I don't understand, is he had a bad game, the week before. Then supposedly he practiced all week like a madman, practiced like Tarzan, but he's out there playing like Jane. Just doesn't make any sense to me. I would be starting Spillane. I don't know why Spillane hasn't been playing on rundowns to begin with this year. He's the better, more physical guy. He's the guy that's going to, like Perch said, take on that offensive lineman, take on that blocker, and at least try to go through him. Bush just gets totally wiped out of the play. He's got no sand in the pants. He can't hold up against any blocker. What's going to happen when Patrick Ricard flattens his ass this weekend if Ricard plays? Does Devin Bush even get up off the ground? Yeah, it's just frustrating.
Jeremy, I don't even think they assign a guy to block him, really. Why would you? It's like, hey, let's block somebody else who might make the play. FC, go ahead and tell me that no matter what they do with Devin Bush, it's not going to matter because the guys in front of him are too small. What about Carlos Davis? Can Carlos Davis get some reps and play this game? They've announced Mondo as the starter, but
I don't think Carlos Davis is the answer. He's 315 pounds, but he's not necessarily playing like a 315-pounder. I actually will take back what I said, and I agree with Perk. I thought that this was Bush's option year where they had to pick up the option on his contract, and that's not until next year. So he will be a day one starter next year. Where I'll disagree with Perch, though, is I think one not even high quality, but quality run defending nose tackle could make this defense a lot better. I think that he can make Joe Sherbert and Devin Bush look a lot better. I'm not saying necessarily Jordan Davis, a guy that's going to be a top 10 pick. But if they were able to talk Harrison out of retirement earlier this year, Snacks Harrison, the Steelers need a guy that can play 15 or 20 downs a game. I'm not looking, necessarily for. I'll be perfectly happy with Chris Hoke even at this point if we can't find a case. But that's what I think is the problem with the Steelers defenses. When a Casey Hampton would go down, you could stick in a Chris Hope that was 305 pounds, a little war machine, or Gary Howe from the early 90s, Stumpy Howe, or Gerald Williams with a G, and you had Joel Steed backing him up. The Steelers have no nose tackle on our roster. Traditionally, we carry 2, and I do agree that the league has turned more into a passing league, unless you're facing Pittsburgh, where we're just going to jam the ball down your throat. I think the Steelers need to get back to their base and their core, and I think they need to completely go to what Mike Tomlin's comfortable with, because whenever you get past personnel, you look at defensively what we're doing, it is nothing close to what Dom Capers and Dick LeBeau, did with the Pittsburgh Steelers, or what Rod Rust did with the Pittsburgh Steelers under Chuck Noll running the 3-4. This is a new type of defense that I'm not very comfortable with.
How bad did they blow it with Javon Hargrave, though? They thought that he was just a nose tackle plugger. Yeah. Think about it. That guy could have been a rotational player across the line. He could have been your base down nose tackle. He could penetrate. When he kicked over to defensive end, he was really good. So, if you wanted to run all 3 of those guys and rotate them around, keep them all fresh, that was an ideal situation. He was a good, young, strong defensive lineman that can play the nose and can penetrate and can kick over and play the 5-tech spot. And they just let him go. And, they didn't think he could, be a penetrating player. They misused him and just misdiagnosed him after they did a good job of finding him in the third round of the draft. That whole thing, you see these young players we lose, like him and Mike Hilton, they lost for peanuts, that can make a huge difference on this defense right now, and they just let him go. I understand there's salary cap issues, but those are two guys they really should have built a team around.
I mean, I think it still comes back to it. FC, I'm going to go back to you for a second. I think it still goes back to the problem with the linebackers. Basically, Devin Bush is the problem with even the configuration that they're using for, the not staying out of base, because if they play more base, then he's got more coverage responsibility. And I think that's one of the things that killed them last year was these, they didn't have Joe Schobert, but then they would get into these situations where they were all set to stop the run, and they would get a linebacker scheme to cover a slot wide receiver or a move tight end, and they didn't really have anybody capable of doing that. Okay, you added Joe Schobert, that helps a little bit, but basically if you leave Bush on an island in the middle of the field, or you leave him in a situation where he's got to cover on the edge, you're in pretty bad shape. I think you don't have a 300-pounder. You could probably play a base four, a four-man front with Highsmith, Hayward, and Mondo, and then one of the other guys, Wormley or somebody, and then have Watt play like an elephant position or whatever. But that puts you in a spot where, Schobert might work as a weak side, but or a strong side for the tight end. But that puts Devin Bush in the middle where he's not going to be able to really play. If you had more variety of linebackers, or you had some bigger guys for the line, like it's kind of like they're not built to do either thing. It's frustrating. What's your take on that?
I think that elite NFL, any player that's playing the NFL is elite. So, and I think that those type of superstar elite people carry big egos, and that ego can really get whenever. I'll use one that when Cordell Stewart got to bust off a big run and make an easy throw, you can see 28-32 from Cordell Stewart, 350 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he looked like the best quarterback in the NFL. Whenever things started going awry, Cordell Stewart would look like the worst quarterback in the NFL. The same thing could be said for Sidney Crosby, Barry Bonds, Michael Jordan. Early in his career, had horrible struggles. And the superstars learn to handle that ego. I don't think Devin Bush has learned to handle that ego. So I think that you, as a defensive coordinator, as the Steelers are probably one of the worst NFL scouting organizations for other players from teams, meaning Corey Peters, who's a starting nose tackle for the Arizona Cardinals, probably playing at a Pro Bowl level. Could have been a Pittsburgh Steeler if we signed him for vet minimum. You signed on with the Cardinals for a 2-year vet minimum deal. And he didn't want to go back to Arizona, but that was his only opportunity to play. You're going to tell me that we could add Taco Charlton, we can add Ingram. We felt that nose tackle was not a need position. And that is a horrible job of not only scouting your own team, but scouting outside the NFL. My point is I think that Devin Bush has the ability to be a very good NFL player. But Devin Bush needs very specific things to be a very good NFL player. The same thing can be said for a 6-year in the NFL, Joe Schobert. He cannot be asked to take on blocks from bigs. And a 3-4 nose tackle that is of the Casey Hampton ilk, or even the Kimo von Oelhoffen ilk, where he forces the play side guard to stay on the double team with the center, which allows either Joe Schobert or Devin Bush to chase, unblocked, and make plays at the line of scrimmage. I said this last week. With what we have out there, we could have Jack Lambert, LaVon Kirkland, Kendrell Bell, you name your inside linebacker, Dick Bucket, it wouldn't matter. What the scheme versus and what the personnel the Steelers are putting out there, they could have the greatest inside linebackers of all time, and they would not be successful because littles cannot beat bigs in their end game consistently.
Yeah, but FC, I mean, I just would say yes, I agree with you about Sherbert and Bush. They're specific role players. They're not transcendent players that are going to transform your defense. But begging, the question, why did you draft a guy using 3 picks and moving
Devin
up
Bush has the ability to be there's not many guys that are really transcendent players. I think that if you put Devin Bush ideally with a big nose tackle and players like Hayward and Tuitt, and let's say a player like Jordan Davis in front of him, I think that he could be a very good player to where his deficiencies could be hid to the point where I think he can make 8 to 10 big-time plays, meaning interceptions or sacks, maybe in the season. And that number may go up to 10 or 12. So if you were talking about, an inside linebacker with 3 interceptions, 5 or 6 sacks, 70, 80 solo tackles, that's pretty good in today's passing world. I'm
just saying it's like, the guys you often refer to, we do on this show, refer to guys as could play in any scheme. In effect, Cam Hayward, play in any scheme. TJ Watt, you'd figure out a way to make him work.
Sure. Make it back.
Yeah, I just feel like that's the thing that's sort of missing. They kind of needs, in order to be multiple and give multiple looks and not be stuck in worried about matchup problems or worried about, getting washed out. You got to be able to have guys who can do, don't need everything to be perfect for them to be able to succeed. All right, that's enough on the Devin Bush. Jeremy, that one last word on the Devin Bush. Jeremy, you're a basketball guy, probably. You're in Indianapolis, right?
You grew up with a basketball in your hand when you grew up in this state. Yes.
Put it in your cradle. You don't have one in your case behind you, but otherwise, I'm assuming you remember Doug Moe. Doug Moe is the coach of the Denver Nuggets.
Denver Nuggets, baby.
And Doug Moe was famous for 2 things. One was he had a perfect nomenclature for a big guy who's not athletic with the stiffs. It's like, yeah, he's a stiff. And it would just be like you weren't a player if you were a stiff, but there was just a lot of stiffs out there and not a lot of athletes. But the thing he used to say about drafting was, if you have, if you're in the NBA draft a big guy, because even when he slows down and loses his quickness, he'll still be big. And that's the thing about Devin Bush. Still not going to be big when he has a knee injury. Anyway, I don't know. I should have had a question prepared for you instead of just giving you Doug Moe stories, Jeremy, but I'll give you a second because next I'm going to go to Perch for his reveal on his inside scoop on Stephon Tuitt. What you've listened to this whole conversation. I'm giving you your chance, Jeremy. Hit it.
Man, I don't know what else to say that already hasn't been said on here without just repeating a bunch of stuff. So I'm more interested in hearing what Perch has to say with this inside scoop about Stephon Tuitt, because that's the 315-pound Stephon Tuitt out there.
Perch, tell us what the story is, man. We all need to know.
I mean, I think that's the thing is we've all been wanting to know the story since the beginning, and so I started digging around a little bit through some local connections, a good friend of mine and one of his contacts. And anyway, just too many people in Steelers land, whether you're on the old Facebook social media comments or on old SteelerFury.com, you keep seeing all these stories that he's out mourning his brother and he shouldn't be getting paid and he was never hurt, and that's bullshit. Okay, the guy was legitimately hurt. Okay, so the timeline, basically, the brother dies in June. He's doing some family stuff. He's time away from the team. He comes back. He's doing conditioning. Gets a knee injury. They try to rest it a little bit. Get testing on it. Decide he needs surgery. The team has never come out and said he had a ligament injury or anything like that. It sounds like it was a meniscus. I don't know what you guys know about meniscus, but if you remove the damn thing, you can be back pretty quick. But if you get surgery on it, it's got to fully heal, which can take 4 to 8 months. So if not for, the brother and everything, if it was just for the knee, he would just be coming back about now to start practicing, to take a few weeks to get his conditioning up to football speed, to maybe play the final couple games of the year. When you throw in the other stuff about, he's having some mental issues with the brother and all that, that all factors into it. But the guy isn't missing the season because he didn't want to play or anything. He legitimately had a knee injury and a knee surgery. So that's just all I wanted to clarify with that. I had it confirmed by 2 different Steelers beat writers, the guy I know and a guy that, he asked about it as well. So that's as close as I can get to some sort of an answer. So, you could say, hey, he's dogging the last 2 weeks of the season where he could be out there, but you can't say he dogged the whole season. So I just hope he gets well and, mentally wants to, things like that. You lose a sibling, and the guy can look at his bank account and say, boy, I've made, $30-40 million, whatever he's made at this point in his career, and decide to walk away. But he can also be motivated and come back. He's only 28 years old. You see some big defensive tackles play to their mid-30s. So, he could be a big part of fixing what's wrong with this team. You just hope that the Steelers, obviously, certainly appears that they're treating him the right way and giving him his time and his space. And, maybe he wants to come back next year and be part of the solution. But, I'm just tired of listening to people bad about the guy and saying that his brother died. He should get 3 days of bereavement and come right back. He was injured. Okay. He was injured. That's the thing.
Yeah. And I think
11 sacks last year.
Yeah.
11. Guy's a stud. So thank you for the information, Birch.
Yeah, Perchin. All of that is good to know. It doesn't. To me, it doesn't matter if it was a physical ailment or he was having, issues off the field that were affecting his ability to want to play. Like I think he deserves whatever it takes. It's a hard job to play in the NFL. It's dangerous, and yes, you get paid a lot. But it's like if your heart is not 100% in it, I can't imagine having, wanting to put on the equipment and go out and do it. So either way, that's okay. But you listened to the Mike Tomlin's press conference this week. What did he say about Tuitt? Because it was reported that he said Tuitt was healthy at this point, just not ready to practice yet. What was your take on what Tomlin?
No, I've seen that misquoted very badly too, where he confirmed it and be back. He said that, he wasn't ready yet, that he's been in the building and working, and, he's there. That's another thing. People said they haven't seen him. Yeah, it's the people who are actually within the building have seen him. He's not practicing with the team because he can't, because, the IR situation, but he's there working out and getting into shape. And, you've got to not just rehab the knee from the surgery. You've got to, start to try to get into football shape and work on conditioning and that sort of thing. But Tomlin just made it said, he's mostly focused on the people who are available to him this week. He doesn't have a 6-week perspective, is what he said. So he doesn't know if, and we've got a quick week to turn it around. So it's a Thursday game. So he obviously won't be back to practice next week. Maybe during that bye week, he comes back and starts to practice. But at that point, you've got that 3-week clock ticking. At best, he's going to play a game or two. And if that knee's not completely healed and stable, or maybe he's just not confident in it yet, why not just give him the damn time off? Let him take the full year to completely recover and be part of the solution. The worst thing to be is to put him back out too early and have him, tear the knee again and have to get surgery. But yeah, Tomlin just basically said that he's, focused only on the people who are available this week, and he doesn't have a 6-week perspective on if he'll come back in a couple. But he didn't roll him out. He didn't say he's definitely out for the year or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Like we would love to have him for any week, especially if, they figure out some way to where other teams lose enough for them to stay in the hunt for a playoff spot. Because you can imagine a team, if you added to it and they figured out some solution for at least slowing down other teams running the football, you could imagine a scenario where, they could play as well as they did at least earlier in the year. Before this last 3-game stretch. Jeremy, let's move on for just a second to, because, there's plenty of negative things to talk about. We didn't even talk about Chase Claypool or anything on the offense, up or down, or the offensive line. Let's move, though, in the context of this week's game against the Ravens. Do you see any, okay, I'll put it this way. Sometimes the Steelers, everybody counts them out. They're shorthanded. Oh, my God, they're going to get killed. Is there a chance in this game at all, some reason to have optimism that the Steelers might be able to hang around with the Ravens and steal a game?
I think so. I think if TJ Watt plays, and, doesn't have to sit out because of COVID, he's on the COVID protocol list, if we were fully healthy, I feel like we'd have a better shot. But just where are we with that at this point? We only have 2 wide receivers, that can go out there and consistently make plays, and Claypool and Johnson. Pat Freiermuth has been he might lead the team in touchdown grabs at this point. I'm not sure. But, he's been a nice surprise, but we just don't have the talent right now to go out there and win against good football teams. I think that's just the glaring weakness. You know, if Odafe Owe plays this week, my God, our right tackle, I don't know if he'll be able to block him at all. He's so athletic. But, you know, we had a close game against Green Bay when everyone counted us out of that, you know, and more mistakes by us kept us out of that game than, you know, Green Bay's stellar play or whatever. I mean, I think we can play with Baltimore. You know, they're inconsistent. Jackson threw 4 interceptions last week to a Cleveland defense. So I think there's a shot, but I mean, we've got to come out and play near perfect football. You know, we've got one wave of like starters that we can rely on like both sides. And when that's the case, you have to go out there and play perfect football. We can't have, you know, a lame pick 6 to Mike Hilton. We can't have those types of plays and expect to win this game this weekend.
Purge, what were you going to say there?
I was yelling Penn State when he started talking about Owe.
Oh, okay. I'll since you're here, Perch. How'd you like to have that guy instead of Najee Harris on your team? You think it would make any difference?
Yeah, I'm not going to badmouth Najee. I mean,
no. It's not a knock on Najee. He's a running back, though.
It is too. If you're saying you shouldn't have picked him.
Well, what I'm saying is I don't mind a player. In fact, I think as a person, a player, as a running back, I think he's great. But the idea that, you know, the difference between that running back that you're picking in the first round and guys you can get in the middle rounds or off the street, the difference is so little. Edge rushers, the difference between the elite guys and guys off the street like Taco Charlton or Derek Tuska is night and day.
Who's this elite guy we're speaking about?
Well, I'm not necessarily saying that Owe is an elite guy.
He's a one-trick pony and garbage long-term. Don't be fooled.
Let me pile on B2B a little bit, too. Let me pile on here, too. I know you got your AARP card out. And you probably forget the last 3 seasons of watching Steelers running backs who couldn't make anybody miss, couldn't fall forward, that wouldn't find a damn hole. He just, you know, what Najee's shown and what he's done with his vision and his, you know, just toughness and talent as a runner is so much better than what we've had in the past. Now, the results haven't been great. I mean, he's done, I think.
No, this is not a result. It's not about the results, Perch. It's not about the results. It's what is the difference? I mean, how much better? I agree that Najee Harris is better and going to be better
than
Gus Edwards.
With him in the third round from the last draft.
Than Gus Edwards. And Gus Edwards was available as a free agent. He was on the street. He was a free agent signing a undrafted free agent. How much difference would the Steelers offense be long-term with a guy like Gus Edwards compared to Najee Harris?
But you're talking about having J.O.A. who would be a backup rotational.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not even saying necessarily that guy. I just meant to have a center, that was better immediately.
Let's stop there. Hold on. Freeze the show. Creed Humphrey, round 2. We all were sitting there on our little draft board, BSing back and forth, saying, "Yep, that's definitely going to be the pick." And they took Freiermuth, and I think you in particularly were upset.
No, I wasn't upset. I wasn't upset about Creed Humphrey. I think Creed Humphrey's protected in the scheme he's running right now. I'm not sure. But taking a tight end, yeah, I wasn't a fan of taking a tight end there.
And I like Freiermuth then, and I think he's done a great job. And I think, you know, he's great in the red zone. He's a solid blocker compared to Ebron and what we've had. But, you know, then you don't get your center, so you kind of reach on one in the third round, and he's getting pushed around every week. And then you realize you didn't take an offensive tackle, and you get one who can't cover block on the left-hand side. And it's just, I don't think either of those two guys are ever going to be the long-term solution. You know, maybe, I don't know, maybe you slide the center to guard and things get better, or maybe it's just rookie learning growth curve. But I have some concern that we picked 2 skilled guys, neglected the offensive line, wasted 2 picks on mediocre offensive linemen, and then we're going to look at ourselves at the end of the year and say, yeah, we better go draft 2 offensive linemen now. We've got no quarterback. We really have no inside linebackers. When Hayden is a free agent at the end of the year, do we really have more than one good corner on the team?
Nope.
We won't have a strong safety. The defensive line's decimated. I mean, things are not looking too promising at this point.
No, I mean, I'm not saying that Oa is would have been the best choice for them. I'm just saying, take something that's a position of value, that's of more value to you long term than the 5 peak years you're going to get out of a running back for a team that has holes. Like, it's one thing if your team was totally built and you thought you're ready to contend right now and you have the best defense in the NFL and all you need is a running back and a tight end to put you over the top. That's one thing. So the specific player in question, could be something else.
Yeah, I think I approach Kendrick Green and Dan Moore Jr. I see him in a better light than a lot of people do. I remember Chucks are doing pretty good against some pretty decent pass rushers this year. And, Dan Moore has definitely had his problems, but he's also been fed to the wolves at times.
Yep.
I think both of them are good enough starters to win games. But I do agree completely with what Perch has said about the roster. The Steelers have a lot of work to do. And I think that the roster is going to have to turn over quite a few players pretty quick. And I think that Colbert did a good job in the draft. I'm not going to take away from that. I understand that a lot of people don't like Kendrick Green. I know a lot of people don't buy into Dan Moore. They're questioning Buddy Johnson. We're going to have to do a better job with our veteran free agent additions. And we may have to look at our first-round pick this year. As bad as we're playing, it could be in the early teens, and we may have to look to move it to grab more pieces, more lottery, chances at the lottery. Take that first-round pick and maybe try to turn it into 3 or 4 other picks, and just add and realize that we're going to have, probably a 2-year rebuild at the minimum.
Yeah.
Reality.
Yeah, no, to me, I think that's the thing. I guess that's what I'm saying. My objection, I have zero objections with the player. I think Najee Harris is a leader. He's a great guy to have on your team. So I have no complaints with him. It's just when you're heading into a rebuild, bringing in a running back that is not going to be playing by the time that you get it back rebuilt, or if he is, it's it's like you have like a 1 or 2 year window or something with him. That's the part that makes me wonder, like what kind of luxury. That's like getting rims for your 85, Buick or something. I don't know. Jeremy, I'll give you the last word on all of this stuff because we got to move along.
I've seen Perch it on the head. We just don't have the talent to win at a high level this year. We're missing players due to injury, and we just don't have the horses this year. We're going to have to find a way to infuse more talent on this offense. We've got some starters, but we have no depth. Same can be said for the defense. This is, would you rather build out your roster and, grab a quarterback later? Because, what quarterback would we draft next year that's going to come in and change anything? Nothing's going to change if the roster stays this way. We need to, like FC said, trade down, accumulate some picks, infuse some talent back in this roster from top to bottom. This is the year I'd love to do it too. I feel like there's a lot of quality players to be had in the second, third round. We've got to find more talent because we're lacking it this year. And then the guys we find, they need to have some heart too, because, it's not going to be tolerated next year if we come out, keep getting punched in the mouth. We need to find more guys that have hearts like Hayward, Watt, guys that are going to go out there and be tone setters, be difference makers. So, get some quality free agents in too. We're going to have, I was looking the other day just because I love to look ahead of this stuff. We have around $40 million. We can find 52 pretty quick. It's not that hard. We can get a lot of quality veteran players who have played in this league to shore up some depth and kind of solidify this roster to get ready for that quarterback we're going to draft at some point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I agree. I think that was this, the sound of reality hitting everybody on Sunday at about halftime, right? So I get it. We'll come back. We'll talk about at least what we think is going to happen in the Steelers-Ravens game this week. Here's a preview. It's not going to be pretty, most likely. In the meantime, let's move on. This is our illustrious pick segment brought to us by
Jeremy's Sunday pregame show, which you can find at
8:30 a.m. KLAA radio. Checks out 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific in the morning on Sunday.
And Mike Perry, Washington. I'm not even going to throw him under the bus. And so we have a new sponsor. It's by Alka-Seltzer, and with its new key phrase, wouldn't it be best if Chris Collinsworth, who's our award winner, his mother would have swallowed him down? I have never heard a worse announcer in my life, Bob Trumpy included, than Chris Collinsworth. I would pay.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Dan Fouts just called in to the show.
I could deal with Dan Fouts. He's at least a Hall of Famer, and he had his moment in the sun, and he'll let things go. I would like to just beat Chris Collinsworth to death with body blows, or I would like him to have to fight Chimiev and Makiev 2-on-1. Perch can appreciate this. And the Russians get to kill Chris Collinsworth. I can't think of a single thing that I hate. I hate Chris Collinsworth more than COVID. I hate him worse than cancer.
Chris Collinsworth, if you're out there, I like you, man.
Oh my God. Oh, where are we going with the show? I'd like to add a new sponsor, and that is the tackle leaving about a second and a half before the snap, which apparently is an NFL sponsor also this year. Jeremy.
One of the Chris Collinsworth thing, his son, who got the job, obviously by much talent and qualifications, looks high. I don't know what that kid's smoking between takes, but man, the 2 minutes of airtime he gets every week, man, he looks high as hell.
Chris Sims and him could be on the needle. My understanding is Chris Sims had a little heroin issue problem about 8 to 10 years ago. The internet never forgets. Look it up.
Wow. Yeah. Any lawyers, if you're writing into the show, it's FC care of.
It's represented by legal counsel. So if you want to come to Dixie, come on down.
Oh, bring your body blows and Russians. The Chargers at Cincinnati, Jeremy. Wait. We have to talk about some college picks because we were so good at picking college games last week with our ringing endorsement of the Ohio State Buckeyes and their game against Michigan. It's championship weekend, Jeremy. What do we think in this Georgia-Alabama game?
Well, it's the 5-star matchup everyone's ready to tune into. I can tell you that. I like Georgia, though. In my opinion, if Auburn can keep Alabama down, Georgia's definitely going to keep Alabama down. I think Jamison Williams has to sit out for part of this next game. Is that correct? Was his targeting call first half or second half?
Understanding.
Targeting sucks.
Sorry, was that first or second half? I forgot.
I think he has to sit out this first half.
I mean, he's the real difference maker. He's the one guy that can really stretch the field. You saw when he wasn't there, Alabama had trouble moving the ball on Auburn. I just think Georgia's too good. I just think their defense is so good that they're going to be tough to beat. I'll take Georgia this week.
Yeah, Perch, what's your take on the Georgia-Alabama matchup?
My take is a question to you guys. Jordan Davis. He doesn't go in the first round, does he? I mean, I think everybody thinks that he's some,
Oh my God! Let me tell you this, Perch. I don't want to take a 3-4 nose tackle. If we trade down, and he's available at 28, and the Steelers picked up picks, you will absolutely love him.
Well, what I'm saying though is, I think that for his skill set and what the NFL values at this point in time, I think he's a guy that might fall to our second-round pick. I mean, Tuitt fell to our second-round pick, which is lower.
He's got a lot more Linval Joseph to his game than people realize. He can really rush the passer, and he's not your typical 345-pounder. I'll put it this way.
Wait. Is there such a thing as a typical 345-pounder? I'm just asking.
Do you want to be
you ever go to Walmart?
The second coming of that? Because that's the type of skill set he really has.
We have to start insulting people and making personal attacks at people who have not as good lawyers as Walmart and NBC and Chris Collinsworth. Just saying.
So I picked Georgia, by the way. I didn't throw a pick out. I don't follow the rules, but I'll take Georgia too. They're going to win.
Tom, what do you think about this?
The game, and I decided not to. Gave my wife's going. I decided not to go. I'm going to take the University of Georgia, and as everybody's looking for Jordan Davis, he's a great player. Remember this name, Jalen Carter from the University of Georgia. I think he's going to be probably the best defensive lineman to come out of college football in a long time. He's a freshman. He's incredible.
Yeah, it seems like it. Better question than who will win this game. If Alabama loses this game, are they still going to get in the playoff? I'll start with you, Jeremy.
Yeah, man, top four is rigged. I mean, Saban and Alabama, and there no matter what, they're going to make a case that they're a two-team than Notre Dame's a one-loss team. Notre Dame's not playing this weekend, so I mean they're not finding their way in. I mean, if for some reason Michigan would lose this weekend to Iowa, that opens up a chance for Alabama to stay up in the top. I mean, I think they're going to be there. Yeah, just something tells me the committee's going to find a way to keep Alabama in the Final Four.
I don't know, Perch. What do you think about that?
Alabama and Ohio State are in, right?
As of
No matter what, every year. No, honestly, if they get in this year,
right.
it's far. You can't keep out. Oklahoma State, if they win, I mean, Cincinnati's got to be in. You can't keep Cincinnati out if they're undefeated. Georgia,
Notre Dame, man.
It's on Notre Dame. They don't even have a coach.
That part's true, although the committee said they won't take that into account. Dom, settle this.
They will not make it in, shockingly. I think if Georgia lambasts them, there's no way. If it's a very, very close game, there's a chance. I think that Auburn-Alabama game really put a little bit of stench on Alabama. So if Georgia comes out and covers or beats them by, let's say, 17 or more points, I do not think Alabama will make the bullshit BCS thing.
Who the hell has Alabama beat this year that makes us think that they deserve it? I mean, they beat a mediocre to bad Arkansas team, Ole Miss. I mean, there's no good wins there, really. They really struggled to beat Auburn, who's just pretty average. I mean, they're decent, but there's not a good win on anywhere on there.
Now, if you're Alabama, you start in the playoff and you have to play your way out of it. That's how that works. ACC championship, quickly, Pitt and Wake Forest. Rather than I'm going to ask you who wins, I'll start with you, FC. Which quarterback in this game will not be picked higher, but which quarterback in this game will have a better NFL career?
Oh, I have absolutely no doubt it'll be Kenny Pickett.
Not a Sam Hartman fan. Perch, you want to go along with that?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I hate everybody. So. No, I don't like any of the quarter. It's like I don't think very highly of either. It's just saying one of them's going to have a better NFL career is weighted to me. I hate everybody in this class as far as the quarterback. So nobody. That's my answer.
Nobody's the answer. All right, MC, go ahead. Tell me what you're going to say.
Oh, he's a ton of. Sam Hartman reminds me a ton of Dallas's offensive coordinator from Boise State.
Yeah, Kellen
Moore. There you go.
Moore, yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Smart kid. Jeremy, what do you think?
Oh, I mean, definitely Pickett. I'm not a Hartman fan at all.
Do you I don't like Kenny Pickett tattoo on your arm? I'm just asking.
No.
I love Kenny. Something like that.
No,
I love number 8. Yeah.
I've never been a Hartman fan. I watched him a little bit to try to get a gauge on, and I just don't think he's got the velocity in his throws that are going to make a difference. I think at least Pickett's got more of an arm where he can make some more NFL throws. People forget, the college hash marks are so much wider, so you can throw to the short side of the field so much easier. That goes away when you get to the NFL. Everything's a long throw. There are no throws to a short side of the field. I think that's a big difference. I think you see that when you say that again, FC.
You're preaching the word. That's fucking is so money. It's unbelievable with the hash marks, and so many people overlook that from the college to pro transition.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of fans just don't realize it. They have to really look and say, oh, yeah, there is a short side of the field. Shoot, you learn about that playing NCAA, college football, and when you flip over to Madden, when you used to play the NCAA game, there's a short side of the field and there's the big side of the field. You always learn to run to the big side of the field. That doesn't work like that in the NFL. So, but yeah, I've never been a fan of Sam Hartman. I think he lacks velocity. He's a decent decision maker, but I just he's got what it takes for consistent ball placement especially at the NFL level.
Well, let me put it this way: Sam Hartman would look a hell of a lot better if he was thrown to the kind of dominant receiver that the other guy's throwing to.
Perry and Robert, not from Wake. You're right. Addison's very good.
Yeah, I don't
think that's a college wide receiver from Pennsylvania.
That's a tough call, but yeah, I'm inclined to say yes.
I heard that.
Yeah. You heard that, Perch? That's respect.
I heard. I love your digs. I love your under the radar digs. I'll put that in there.
No, that's not an under the radar dig. I'm actually saying the Penn State wide receiver is better. How about that? I think he's going to be a better pro. I like Jordan Addison. John, what's his name? I forget his last name.
Dotson.
There you go. Yeah. He's a stud from Penn State.
Yep.
Stud.
I just think it's another one of those wide receiver classes, man, where you could just wait forever and still grab a good guy. But Perch, I'll have you know that someone on Twitter this week chastised me. It dismissed me for being a Penn State homer. I
agree. I've been saying that to you for years.
Do you know me? I don't think so. Anyhow, I don't know. I guess I'll take Pitt in that game. I think their team's a little bit better. I don't know.
How are you still not banned from Twitter?
I just want to pick up the Alabama thing.
I don't know how I'm not banned from Twitter. I'll tell you what, Perch, every once in a while, I delete a tweet that I've written before I send it. I think that's why I'm still on Twitter.
That's why you're the host of the show, and I'm just the colorful entertainment, right?
The colorful entertainment. That's one way of putting it. Let's talk for a second about the Chargers Cincinnati. Jeremy, I threw it to you an hour ago. What do you make of this game? The Chargers, are they as good as they looked against the Steelers, or are they as they looked at other times? Cincinnati like a world beater now, or are they the team that got blown out by Cleveland? You figure it out.
I mean, I would say both are somewhere in the middle. Consistency is the name of the game. Both teams been pretty inconsistent this year. They play up, they play down. Shit, that's been the NFL the last 4 weeks. I can't tell you how many games I've lost in parlay picks. Staying away from that going forward. For real, it's been bad. But I like Cincinnati in this game. They came off of a bye. They got back to doing a balanced offense, able to run the ball against us, able to pass the ball against us. I see similar success going up against the Chargers. They kind of found their swagger back. That's one thing I've been kind of preaching on the Extra Point or, my other podcast. The teams that have refound their swagger are the ones that are winning ball games. They've got swagger, they've got confidence, they've got energy. I feel like Cincinnati's got that back. I like Cincinnati.
How about you, Perch?
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. Cincinnati's defense, all these teams in the NFL this year are so schizophrenic, though. Like, you go out and you lose to, like, the Jags, and you get blown out by the Browns, and then you dominate some good teams. I mean, they killed the Ravens. They killed the Steelers twice, and you have to figure out some of these teams. I like Cincinnati's defense. Better on both sides of the ball. I think, the Chargers offense is really good. I think their defense can be had. I'll take the Bengals to win and cover. I think they win by 4 or 5 in that game.
How about you, Dom?
I will make 3. I also like the Bengals, and I will quickly say, keep your eye out for Callahan, the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals, and talks for a head coaching job. He is a very, very skilled, smart young man. You look what he did against as a real young man in Jacksonville against a pretty good Steelers defense, and you look at what he's designed so far this year. He'll have an answer for Joey Bosa. I definitely like the Bengals, and I like the Bengals by more than a touchdown.
I was, I did speaking of other shows, I did my other show, the Old School, New School football podcast. I guess you guys can guess which guy on the show is the old school guy. But I picked Cincinnati to win this game, whatever that was, yesterday, 2 days ago. I've been thinking about it. Listening to you guys talk, I think maybe the Chargers in this game, and I'll tell you why. I feel like as bad a blowout it was with the Steelers, if they had just slowed down the run and had an offensive plan that wasn't prehistoric, it might have been a different outcome in this game. And Cincinnati's played 2 really good games in a row. They're due for one that's not as good. I'm just playing the odds with the way the NFL is this year. So I will take the Chargers in this one. Quickly.
One last thing about.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Will.
No,
one last thing about this game. This is a rematch of Herbert and Burrow. Last year in 2020, the first game was the Chargers and the Bengals, and Herbert stole a victory. I think Burrow will be very hungry to kind of even up the scoreboard this week.
Oh, all right. Good note. I was just going to say for the other game, the New England Patriots at the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo is a 3-point favorite. FC, I'll start with you. These 2 teams have 2 games left this year. What do you figure happens in this one?
Give me the Patriots and the points.
Yeah. Do you think they'll cover, or do you think they'll win?
I just think the Patriots are going to find a way to win the game.
Yeah.
It ain't going to be pretty. It's going to be some bullshit type of way, special teams, but New England will find a way to win and cover.
How about you, Perch?
Bills. Patriots aren't ready yet. I think they're building something pretty nice up there. All the pieces they brought in the offseason, the tight ends, and patching up the defense, and a good young quarterback. I just think that primetime game up in Buffalo, the Rowdies will be good and drunk, and I think the Bills have got a lot to play for. Bills are going to be too much. They're going to win and cover.
There's too many other things to do in Buffalo this time of year, Perch. Nobody will be at the game. Just kidding. Jeremy, what do you think?
Well, there's too many tables to smash, man. They're going to be out there in full force. I think it'll be a back and forth game. I do think the Bills find a way to win it. They need to get kind of that signature win that kind of propels them forward. I think they're going to be geared up and ready to go. They've got to fight the Patriots. Patriots have the number 1 seed out of the East right now. You wouldn't have thought that, when you began the season. They're playing great football right now. I just think Buffalo finds a way to win this game. They need this game, and I think the Patriots kind of end the streak. I think it's 6 straight. I think it ends at 6.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Bills. I mostly because I feel like these 2 teams are fairly even, but the Bills are A, playing at home in prime time, and B, the game means more to them. New England will lose this game and still be in a pretty good position for a playoff spot and pretty good position to even win the division with a rematch at home against Buffalo. Buffalo loses this game, man. They're in free fall. So I feel like this is a game that they must win and will win. That brings us to our 5-star matchup. He uses the air quotes for those of you who can't watch or only listening. Our 5-star matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. Hey, it's Ravens week. We haven't freaking talked about the Ravens for 1 second, an hour into our show. Now's your chance. I'm going to throw it to you, Perch. Tell me about the Steelers Ravens and give me an idea on how many rushing yards you think the Ravens will have in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers have really had Lamar Jackson's numbers, and more than anybody else. And you kind of saw it Cleveland last week, kind of get after him and pick him off 4 times and still blow the game. And I mean, even against bad teams like Detroit, the Ravens have really struggled and kept it close. And many times they had miraculous, Justin Tucker 65-yard field goal, or a 14 or 20 point rally in the fourth quarter to come back and beat somebody. they're not really blowing people out. They had a ton of injuries this year too. Their secondary has been kind of beat up. Oweh's hurt again this week. I don't know if he's going to play or not. They're down their first 3 running backs, and they're so desperate they had to sign Le'Veon Bell there for a while. It just, to me, it all comes back to Pittsburgh, and if T.J. Watt's probably not going to play, and boy, there's no there on the defense. It's Cam Hayward and a bunch of stiffs. I just don't like the Steelers' chances against anybody in the NFL right now, let alone Baltimore, who seems to, no matter how bad they play, find a way to pull it out in the end. I think Baltimore wins the game. And, it's 4.5 points. I think Baltimore wins and covers. I think they win by about a touchdown. I'm going to go Baltimore. It'll go 23-16 Baltimore.
How about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same mindset. Baltimore doesn't blow anyone out. It's a good game for 3.5 quarters, and then they find a way to win somewhere in the fourth. I feel like, if we had a healthy Stephon Tuitt that could play, a fully healthy TJ Watt, our starting defensive line out there, I feel like we would have a decent chance because the Ravens O-line is super banged up. Villanueva hasn't practiced this week. Their right tackle's nothing special. Ben Powers might not even play this week. I can't remember if he's practicing or not. Patrick Ricard has not been practicing this week. They are pretty banged up, but I just don't see how we find a way to win this game. Our offense, so up and down. And just, I think the Ravens end up winning by 10. It'll look something like 23-13, but it'll be one of those back and forth games that I don't think anyone really separates until late.
All right, FC. Make it 3 for 3.
Put to the fire, I would pick the Baltimore Ravens to win this game 31-13. What I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to go into 2003, 2004 Pittsburgh Steelers mode when the last time we were really shitty and I had to write articles every week. I would go with what was called the optimistic view. And what the Steelers can do to win this game is, number one, offensively, Matt Canada has to realize what he's attempting to implement is not taking hold. And the only success the Steelers offense really has had is whenever Ben has been able to take over, build his ego, get it going. And I think that's the only way that the Steelers have a chance of winning is they're going to have to score a lot, score often. Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Ben Roethlisberger have to play very good games. Pat Burmese has to be a big part of the offense. And Najee Harris has to be able to have some area to run the football in, but I think he needs to be a major factor in the passing game. I think the Steelers' offensive tackles, the only chance they have, they're going to have to hold up. The Steelers are going to have to be able to run 4-man routes, and they're going to get run on, turn the ball over, punch it out, force 2 turnovers and 2 punts in the game. And they got to hope that the Steelers offense can put up 35 points and you win a game 35-31, 38-35. That's your only chance of winning outside of special teams. And the very limited amount of Anthony Miller that I've seen, he would be in my top 3 wideouts. Just from one play lane.
Well, that freaking catch he made where he caught the back end of the football upside down, I thought was pretty amazing, actually.
I don't care how bad of an apple he is. At this point, I think he can help the team win games, which may not be the best thing, especially whenever you're talking about a draft pick. If you don't feel the Steelers have a chance of making the playoffs, every game that we win is not necessarily a good thing. I will never take that view, but it's going to take a lot for the Steelers to win this game. Meaning, Matt Canada and Mike Tomlin are going to have to realize that they made some mistakes and they're going to have to allow their best chance of winning, Ben, to lead them to victory. Yeah,
no matter how bad an apple he is, Anthony Miller, he won't be as bad an apple as Eli Apple. Just saying. I think Baltimore. I think the Steelers are just too beat up right now. Or missing T.J. Watt. They haven't looked very good without T.J. Watt in any game. It's the thing that really reveals them. It reminds me of when Troy Polamalu missed games, and you were like, suddenly this incredible defense missing one guy can't stop anybody, can't get off the field on third down. So that's what they look like right now. And it would be like 99% sure that TJ Watt's not playing in this game. In fact, he might not even play a Thursday night. That's such a quick turnaround. So I think the Steelers defense will have some trouble stopping the run and getting off the field. So I look for Baltimore to score some points. On the other hand, Steelers offense, it wouldn't surprise me if they managed to score enough points to keep this game close. I don't know if it's covering the spread close, but I thought it was sort of like the idea where Perch had earlier, where the Ravens win by about a touchdown. The Steelers hang around a little bit longer, get our hopes up just so that we can be dashed on the rocks in the end. Excellent. I don't know. I'll maybe call it 30-23 Ravens. As soon as the Ravens hit the 30 mark, the Steelers will pack it up and go home, since they've only hit that mark once in like 2 years. Last word, I'll start with you, Jeremy Coleman.
On third and long, can we please stop running a drag across the middle? I think everyone has figured out that when Pittsburgh needs a big play on third down and we don't have anyone that can go deep, we're going to run this long drag across the middle and see if we can't pick up some blocks and see if we can't pick up the yardage. Everyone knows it's coming. It is our go-to play. For the love of God, can we please draw something else up? Please, Matt Canada. I understand you've only been around 1 year as an offensive coordinator, but you stole that crap from Randy Finkner, man. Stop that. Come up with something original.
Yeah, maybe he'll go to the Ken Wisenhunt shotgun draw, right?
Yeah, the other most predictable play in the Steelers the last 20 years. God.
Oh my God, Perch, how about you, bud?
Well, there are games left in the season, which in all likelihood means here we've had one hell of an 18-year run, guys. I mean, the playoff games, and they've been in contention pretty much every second since the guy was drafted. He probably won't play that well down the stretch. If your first instinct is to pick up the phone or pick up the keyboard and bash the guy, maybe rethink that. Let's just try and enjoy these last 6 games of what we got, because Lord knows how long it's going to take to find another one like him. So let's, even though this season's down the shitter, let's try and enjoy our last 6 games of Big Ben.
Yeah, I will echo that. As somebody who was alive, when Bradshaw came to the team, and when Bradshaw left, I remember what that feeling was like when he blew out his arm. So anyway, Fugly, the period in between. FC, I give you the last word.
Kind of similar to what Perch had to say about Ben. Before any of you keyboard tough guys get on your radio or get on the old interwebs and start bad-mouthing Stephen Tuitt for the mental illness aspect of it, let's take a look and see Everson Griffin locked himself in the house for 18 hours, had a breakdown with the Minnesota Vikings this week. Mental illness is a real thing, guys. And, just have some respect. It's a medical condition. If someone had cancer, you wouldn't bust their balls, or diabetes or something that they couldn't control. And mental illness is real. So, respect the young man, and just try to be kind to one another.
I echo that as well. Good statements from all three you dudes tonight. Be kind to everyone and respect them, unless they are Devin Bush or Mike Tomlin.
Or Raven chance.
Exactly. Brian Kelly. Gentlemen, and also Perch. Don't forget to tune into Jeremy Coleman's show called The Extra Point. It airs on at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Pacific, on 8:30 a.m. radio every Sunday. The Extra Point. Perch has his own show. Unfortunately, it just appears in his mind. It doesn't actually broadcast anywhere, since he's not even on social media anymore. But also still Perch with us. FC doing what he does, bringing it down, making it real. To all of you listening, hit the like button, subscribe, join us at SteelerFury.com to vent about all this stuff. And otherwise, hey, let's talk after I'd like to say let's talk after a Steelers victory, but that might be a while from now. So let's talk after a Steelers game following this matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. Gentlemen, Perch, thanks for being here. I'm Will Massasak, Accidental Zen. Bradshaw to Ben saying, go get them, Steelers.
Steelers. Steelers.
Steeler Fury. SteelerFury.com